Hello everyone, it is Kim with Tabletop Gaming Guild and I'm back with another review for you today. We're going to be taking a look at Murder of Crows, which is a card game for 2 to 5 players. The recommended age is 13 and up, but I think depending on how mature the children are that you would want to play, you could probably go down to age 10 if you wanted to. And about 20 minutes is how long it's going to take to play one round. So let's go down to the tabletop and see what this game's all about. Alrighty friends, let's go ahead and take a look at how this game works. So our book is very short. We all know I love short direction books. And we have little helper cards that tell you what you will do on each turn and also what each of the letters means. So on the cards themselves, your goal is to spell out the word murder in front of you. And just so you know, yes, there are 2 R's in murder. So as you get your cards dealt, your goal is to discard them in front of you and to spell out the word murder. M-U-R-D-E-R, right? So the directions tell you that the first player is going to be the person who looks the most suspicious. And then after that, the first player will be whoever won the previous games. But we're going to deal out cards. First player is going to get 4 and everybody else is going to get 5. Remember, this is 2 to 5 players. So after you get your cards, you can take a look at them. And there are a couple of things to pay attention to. Obviously the letters themselves, and also the number of crows that is on each card will become significant as we go through. So whenever it's your turn, you're going to want to play one of these cards. And again, spelling out the word murder. But each card, each letter has a different effect that will take place. And all of those are on your, again, little reminder card. So if you play an M in front of you when it's your turn, and on your turn you'll pick up a card, add it to your hand, and then play one in front of you. So M stands for misplace. And whenever you play an M, a misplaced card, you get to take one card from any other murder to put in your hand. So that means from any of the other players, you can pick off of their stacks and put it into your hand. If you play a U, U stands for uncover. And uncover means that the other players are going to reveal their hands to you, and you get to choose one card from any person's hand. The letter R, placed in either of the R slots, so either at the beginning of the word or at the end, stands for reap. Alrighty, and reap means that you get to draw an extra card. If you play the letter D, D stands for drain. And whenever you play the D card for draining, that means you pick one letter out of the word murder, and everybody needs to discard that stack of cards. So I would say, at least in my opinion, this seems to be one of the more powerful cards, just with how easily you can wipe out somebody's entire stack. The letter E stands for expel, and expel means that other players will essentially discard their entire hand and then draw 3 new cards. And then remember, of course, the letter R at the end again means reap. So no matter where you place the letter R, it means the same thing. And this is your goal, is to be able to spell out the word murder in front of you. Now, I told you to make sure that you know about the number of crows on each card. That's because you are able to block some of the effects. One way that you can block the effects is whenever somebody plays a card, say they play the drain card, this letter D here, and they want to drain a slot that you do not want to have drained. You are able to, on like your off turn, you're able to play a card to block that. But in order for you to be able to block that effect on yourself, you will need to discard a card from your hand that has the same number of crows as that card that was just played. So for example, if somebody played this D and drained a letter that I didn't want to drain, if this was the hand that I had, I wouldn't be able to block it because none of my crows, I don't have any cards with 3 crows. However, if in my hand I were to have the wild crow, then I would be able to discard a wild crow card and then block the events that are happening in front of me. Now, the wild crow card does have another purpose. On your turn, you can play a wild crow card into any slot in front of you, as long as there's only one wild crow card showing in your murder at any given time. You can play one on top of another, but you cannot have 2 showing in different slots at any time. All right, so that wild card, once you play it into the stack, the wild card is going to have the immediate effect of whatever letter it is played into. So that's kind of, a good way to use that wild card to your advantage. So it is able to, like I say, take the place of that card, but then also say, for example, that you had this wild crow card and somebody drained and they selected the letter D to drain, you're going to lose that wild card also. So it doesn't have like any staying power per se. Alrighty, so a wild card can do that. All right, so whenever you play your wild crow card, you can decide that you want it to take on the effect of whatever stack it's played into, or you can look at somebody else's, one of your opponent's murder stacks, and decide to remove one of their stacks entirely. So it has a lot of different benefits to the game itself. So how do you know when you won the game? Well, you've spelled out the word murder in front of you. And then here's the fun part, as if we haven't been already having fun. But the fun part is now that you've got it, you are going to read what happens to your people you're playing with. So for example, carnage shattered the witching hour in an abandoned church when Emily Bloodstone, in a jealous rage, used a fountain pen to stab Finnegan Faust. Dun, dun, dun. There's the murder. Now, say, for example, you had a wild card. Oh, that's not a wild card. Say, for example, you had one of your, there it is, wild cards in here randomly. You would make up something. You could look at somebody else's letter D and substitute in, or you could just make it up on your own. Emily Bloodstone, for example, we could reread this again, and Emily Bloodstone, because there were no tacos for lunch, used a fountain pen to stab Finnegan Faust. Who knows? Who knows what's driving Emily Bloodstone in her rage? Alrighty, one extra thing I did want to tell you, because I thought this was a really neat adaptation if you're playing with 2 people. There is what we call the murdered third, which is a 2-player variant. And basically what happens here is the 2 living players, so say, for example, I was playing just with my husband and me, I would go, if I were the most suspicious looking person and we're the first player, I would go, and then he would go, and then from the draw pile, we would flip over a random card from the top of the draw pile and follow its effects, and it cannot be blocked. According to the rules, the murdered third, it's called, this effect cannot be blocked. So in case you want to add a little variety to your 2-player game. All right, so let me bring you back up from the tabletop and give you some final thoughts. So my final thoughts on Murder of Crows. We all know how much I love games that are small and don't take up a lot of space. I also love that the rules are very simple. This is a game that I was able to teach myself in just a matter of a few minutes. I also think it's a game that I like to call them gateway games, but games that you can teach to your friends who aren't maybe the biggest board gaming geeks like we are, and they can learn it very easily. It's also a nice game that you can play a couple hands back to back and probably not get too bored. So I like that aspect as well. I think the little story that you create is super cute, and I also really like the 2-player variant that I talked about in the video. So definitely a recommended game here from me. So thank you everybody for tuning in. As always, anytime you think of a game that you think I would enjoy, please let me know in the comments. Give us a follow if you haven't yet, so you can make sure to see all of our new reviews. Give the video a thumbs up, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.